awesome vegans. I'm Elysabeth Alfano, and you are watching Jane Unchained. I have a fantastic interview this morning. I've got doctor, author, animal advocate, and ethical champion, Dr. Neal Barnard is in the house.
Hey there, Elizabeth. How are you doing?
Thank you for being here. I love
Good to
it.
see you.
So, Dr. Barnard has some fantastic news about the state of California and how we are going cruelty-free. Hit it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, this has been a heck of a year. Just the other day, Governor Brown took up his pen, pulled it out, and signed Bill 1249. And what this does is it bans the sale of cosmetic products in the state of California if they have been animal tested. Now, you might think, that's amazing, but it's only California. Here's why it's so important. If you're a cosmetic company and you're in New Jersey, or you're in New York, or you're in Chicago, or you're somewhere else, there is no way that you're going to make one cosmetic product for California that's not animal tested and another one for Chicago or New Jersey that is animal tested. In other words, what I'm saying is that if you've banned the sale of cosmetic products that are animal tested in California, they're effectively banned
Around the world, really.
Everywhere. Now, I got to say it's about time. Because the European Union did exactly this years ago. There was a bit of a phase-in, but this has been the way it is in Europe. And it's been a knockdown, drag-out fight to make this happen here in the United States. But that's where we are. So I'm really happy about it. I'm so delighted. Judy and her group at Skill, Social Compassion in Legislation.
Thank you, Judy.
Yeah, fantastic. And many others, Dr. Gary Michelson, many others have been so helpful in this whole battle, and it's been really terrific. Now, I got to say, we haven't won everything. There still is a loophole here, which...
Thank you for bringing this up.
Can I tell you about this?
Yes, please.
Our work is not done. Let's say a governmental body is by law requiring certain tests. Our big problem here is China. There are some manufacturers who want to sell in China, and China has, I got to say, has been terrible on animal testing. You might have a product here in the United States that's been marketed for a long period of time. We know it's safe. China will say, you want to market it here, you got animal tested all over again.
Oh
This bill does not address that. It did initially, and it ended up getting gutted because there was a big battle with the industry that didn't want to lose the China market. So that is next. Buckle your seatbelts. We got to deal with that too.
Okay, so a couple things here. I'd like to know what we can do. First of all, I would say go ahead and thank the people in California. So on social media, show them your support. If you weren't one of the people who called incessantly like I did, Governor Jerry Brown, if you weren't one of those, you still can make an impact by thanking everybody and letting them know that you are there for the next fight. So what can we do on this next step?
Yeah, well, I think that's really the thing, is you have to show that we got some clout and that we matter. Because if they think it's 2 or 3 people who care, they're not going to go your way. But if they think there's a lot of people out there and we vote and we care, that's what's going to really get it done. So yeah, do thank the governor, but thank your members in the Assembly and the State Senate. Let them know that this, for you, is issue number 1. And let's face it, this is an easy issue. Who is going to be in favor of poisoning animals?
For mascara.
Right. I mean, there is every reason for this to have passed, and it should have passed much more easily than it did. We had a battle to get it passed, but it did pass, I have to say, and it's important for us to weigh in right now. Obviously, if you are choosing cosmetic products or frankly any other kind of product, you want to go with those that mark themselves clearly cruelty-free. Support the companies as well, but don't forget to let your members of the legislature know.
Okay, so I have a couple questions here. When you say specifically cruelty-free, do you mean the bunny with the bunny logo? Because not everything will spell it out for you.
It's best, I think, to support the ones that do spell it out. Make sure that they wear it on their sleeve and let them know you want it. If they haven't said that, let them know that you're concerned about that too. You really want the industry to know that you've got important values here and that you want to see them go forward. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You got a question?
Please, I'm begging you. I'm so thrilled you're at my house. Please take the stage.
Okay. I'm going to say, and the same is true. There are 3 huge areas of animal use. One is testing. That's what we've been talking about right now. And sometimes that's hard for consumers to deal with because it might be industrial chemicals. Oh, it might be pesticides. And at the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, Christy Sullivan and her team deal with that, and they work with the regulators and they work with the manufacturers. And I have to say we're making really good progress. There is less testing every year than there was the year before. So we're making progress, but we're not there yet. The second big area after testing is the use of animals in education. When I was in medical school, I'll never forget, one day they said, okay, guys, pull together your groups, 4 to 6 students per group. We're going to give you your dog lab for next week. And we knew exactly what they meant. They would bring in a live dog. The dog would go on the table. We'd tape the dog down, and then you'd knock the dog out and give the dog drugs, and then you would kill your dog at the end of the day. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I refuse to do it. And they were telling me, well, you have to do this. This is required. And I said, look, I don't think I was a cocky medical student exactly, but I knew for sure I was not going to kill a dog or hurt them in any way. And because I refused, the student next to me said, he's not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So we had a movement of 2, and we didn't do the animal lab. And I made a vow that not only did I want to end the use of that animal lab, I wanted to end them at every medical school. For everybody who's becoming a doctor in the United States and Canada, everywhere else. And I'm happy to tell you that although it took a while, as of 2016, we have eliminated every use of animals in education at every medical school in the United States and Canada. Now, that's great. That's a good thing. I mean, that means you get your MD diploma, and they never even offered you an animal. But there are some other areas in education where that's still true. At some advanced levels of medical education, for example, in trauma training, there's still 2 places in the United States that are using animals. For pediatrics training, I'm happy to tell you, as of about a month ago, we eliminated all use of animals in pediatrics, United States and Canada. Surgery, there's still some. So we're working on it. But if you or a loved one knows somebody who's in training and they would like to take action, we are glad to help. And if kids in high school are given an animal to dissect, now is the time to say, I don't want my child to think that animals have to die for your education. What you want is for education, whether it's science education, medical education, nursing education, you name it. You want people to be smart about how they do it and think, I don't have to kill anybody for you to get the skills you need. If you're a pilot, you use simulators. If you're going to be a surgeon, you can use simulators too. We use all of these things. And kids who are learning about the anatomy of a frog, they're just using it as a cheap replacement for the human body. Well, there are ways now that either with computer models or physical models, you can learn about the human body without hurting anybody. So here's my message. 100% elimination of all animal use from every educational enterprise, and we can do that. And the final big area, once you got testing, education, the third area is research. So sometimes scientists make an animal model of diabetes. What we have said and tried to be an example of is that we can study a disease like diabetes or Alzheimer's or cancer in what I'm going to call a human model. What I mean is we look at human cells or human tissues or human blood or in the research that we do at the Physicians Committee, human patients, where they come in and in ethical ways we work with them to change their diets or other things and see how they do. That's really the future of science.
So I want to go over some important points here that he said. First of all, technology has advanced so far along, there's really no reason for these things to exist except laziness. Is that fair for me to say? I mean, why would we still be doing this at this point in time when we have alternatives which are not only better for animals, but they're better for people because they replicate human situations much more accurately?
I got to tell you, it's funny when we try to figure out why people don't make the right decision. At Harvard University, the medical students came down to see us years ago. They said, we don't want to kill dogs for our education. So I went to Boston. I met with the course instructors, and they said, you're right. And we put the students in the operating room as observers, and they could see things that were much more detailed and exciting for them than the old dog lab. But Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore said, no, we want to kill the dogs. They switched to pigs, thinking nobody would object. And then when we said, look, you don't have to be killing pigs either, I'm not making this up. They said, killing a pig teaches you something about the sanctity of life.
Oh, my word.
I'm not making it up.
Are they smoking crack at Johns Hopkins?
Well, not anymore, because I'm happy to tell you that we worked with them, and eventually they saw that, you really can eliminate the use of pigs and other animals from medical education. They were the second to last medical school to stop, but they did stop.
Okay.
So anyway, you asked me, Elizabeth, why do people do these things?
Yes.
I got to tell you, sometimes human decisions are a little hard to explain, but we have been working hard to make sure that people have the technology they need to make these choices.
So I want to go over, not everybody is Dr. Neal Barnard, but from what he's telling us, and this is why I do this show, Awesome Vegan, so that we can take the inspiration from courageous leaders like Dr. Barnard who have made such steps for us. We all have a voice. That's really what you're saying here, I think. So if you know a medical student who isn't comfortable with this, encourage them, help them to use their voice. His voice of one got another student to say they wouldn't do the lab experimentation on animals, and hence we have now the Physicians Committee on Responsible Medicine, which is changing the rules for operating or experimenting on dogs all over the country such that they don't do that anymore. So you can make a difference. And again, you may not be a surgeon yourself or a doctor yourself, but you can with your purchases, with your vote, your political vote, with your mouth. It is your strongest tool. You are empowered. You can make a difference, and ultimately they will listen to you.
You know, Elizabeth, thanks for saying that. I want to say it doesn't really take courage. When I said I wasn't going to participate in the dog lab, it didn't really require any courage at all. It just took a decision. And the same is true if you're at a restaurant and you're thinking, gee, I wonder if they have anything vegan. Do I dare ask? It doesn't really require courage. It just requires a decision. And so you say, okay, what do you have that's vegan here? Or you're going to take a plane to Europe or something, before you fly, give them a call and say, this is what I want. When you make those decisions, and if everybody does it, it adds up to really be changing the world.
And sometimes people think that it's a lot of effort to either make these decisions or to execute them. But I'll tell you, the energetic difference that you get by making one decision, I will not hurt animals, I will not buy products that we're testing on animals, then you know what to do every decision forward, and that actually gives you a lot of peace of mind. And when your actions in life align with your values, you really have a weight lifted.
Yeah, you sure do. By the way, Elizabeth, I've got some other great news from Sacramento, and this is on the food side of things. If you ever knew anybody who had this experience where they're in the hospital, and they might be there for a heart problem, but the breakfast tray comes, and it's eggs and sausage and bacon, and you think, wait a minute, these are all the things that got me here in the first place. Well, the American Medical Association came out last year and said hospitals have to serve healthy foods. They've got to serve vegan meals. They've got to get rid of the bacon and sausage. The American College of Cardiology did the same thing. And Senator Nancy Skinner, who's from Northern California, introduced a bill in the legislature to say hospitals ought to serve vegan meals. They, capture that teachable moment.
Right.
Or what if somebody's in prison and everything in their life has gone rotten? They made terrible decisions. Why not have that person be able to experience what actually healthy food can be, and that's vegan meals in prisons? Or if you are a prisoner in a hospital, same story, if you get my drift. Well, I'm happy to say that Governor Brown took the cap off his pen and signed that bill too.
Thanks, Governor Brown.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I'm so glad for this. And thank you, Senator Skinner. What it means is hospitals need to make this change. So, if you work in a hospital, know somebody who does, you're a doctor, you're a nurse, you're a technologist, if you're on the board of directors, whatever you may be, please let them know now is the time to change this. And there's really two things we want. One is now the law. They have to serve vegan meals. They've got to have them.
I love it.
They should be promoting them. They've got to have them. But number two, have them make some healthier choices beyond that. A generation ago, we would go into the hospital and you could buy cigarettes in the gift shop. You could light them up on your way down to the doctor's lounge. Patients, I'm not kidding. My hospital, the George Washington University Hospital, patients could smoke in bed. They could smoke in bed unless there was oxygen flowing. Otherwise,
they could take the mask off and smoke and put the mask on.
They sure could, and the doctor could smoke while they were doing the exam. Now we weren't stupid, but everyone just figured, well, it takes a while to get cancer. Let's we'll quit eventually. At some point, everyone made the decision, stop.
Right.
This is a hospital. We have to use this as a teaching facility for the patients who are coming in. And so lung cancer is the number one cancer killer, and tobacco is a big reason. What do you think number 2 is? Colorectal cancer. What do you think causes that? Meat, especially the processed meats like bacon and sausage and ham. Are they still sold in the hospitals? You bet they are. Get them out. Now is the time to eliminate that. The World Health Organization said years ago that we are as sure as we are that tobacco causes lung cancer, we are that sure that these processed meats cause colorectal cancer.
Such as bacon, right?
Well, bacon, sausage, hot dogs, ham, all the deli meats like the pepperoni on your pizza. But I don't mean to say that those are the only bad actors. Turkey bacon, same story. And red meat has also been implicated. And frankly, the people who have the lowest cancer rates are people who avoid animal products completely, people following a vegan diet. So if hospitals aren't yet there, hospitals should be not the last person to come to the table.
With healthy food, that makes no sense.
They should be the first ones to come to the table. But we got a little bit of resistance from them, really for 2 reasons. One is some of them contract their food service to a catering company, and they need to make money. And they figure, well, I'm making money from sausage. I don't want to stop selling it. You got to say, well, you made money from cigarettes in the gift shop.
Right.
Why are you here? You're here for health. Let's figure it out. The second thing is some of them are afraid that the patients will complain. I get bacon at home. Why can't I have it here?
It's usually the opposite. Once they get a taste for good, healthy food,
exactly. And a hospital should be able to say, here's why we're not going to let you smoke. Here's why we're not going to serve bacon. And why stop there? Why not schools? When a 55-year-old guy is in the exam room of the doctor's office and he's got colon cancer, he's got a heart attack, he's had a stroke, that all started when he was 3 or 4 or 5, and his parents taught him by example all the foods that are going to make him sick later.
It's learned behavior.
It's learned behavior, exactly. But now we know more than we did before, and now is the time to insist that these public institutions, hospitals, yes, prisons, of course, but schools, absolutely, need to teach kids not just the alphabet and how to add and divide, but they also need to understand which foods are going to save their lives and which are going to hurt them. And so anyway, that's where I think our next battleground has to be.
Ultimately, you have to advocate for yourself, you have to advocate for your children, and you have to advocate for the world you want to live in. That means a nonviolent world, I would assume, if you have children and you want the generations to continue. That means a healthy planet, and that means a planet where we don't have violence against animals at every turn. And it's never, just to reiterate what Dr. Barnard is saying, it is never the large institution that's making a lot of money that just decides, oh, we're going to do the right thing for you. It is never governments that decide, oh, we're going to do the right thing for that beautiful person in Nebraska. No, it always comes from the bottom. Change comes from the bottom. It comes from us. And we use our voice to advocate for ourselves, to advocate for our planet, to advocate for animals, and that's how we get what we want.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And, oftentimes people aren't opposed to change, they just don't know.
Right.
So that's why being a little bit of a nudge is not so bad. What I mean by that is you have a brother or a sister or a spouse or kids or parents or friends who need to learn a little bit more about, say, what a vegan diet could do for the animals, for the earth, for their coronary arteries. I think that we should be gentle and kind with people, and we don't want to be like a missionary driving them crazy. But you can share books, websites, videos like this one that you're watching now. You can share new movies and some product that you bought at the store. Here's a cool new vegan bologna substitute or whatever it is. Send them a package. And with the joy of shopping, which is the all-American pastime, whether it's books and videos and products, you can share all this stuff and people get all excited about it. And I have seen more people get converted by the fun aspects of sharing than by just about anything else.
And that feel good of when they've turned the corner and they think, I'm no longer part of the problem. I'm now part of the solution, and it's easy.
Yeah, it's easy. It gets super exciting, and it's really fun. And then your friends are going to tell you about their new vegan recipes that they've tried, and they're going to tell you were right all along.
So this is a strange interview for me because every question I was going to ask Dr. Barnard, he's just got into it himself. So I want to thank you for being so on top of it. I just want to extrapolate a little bit about what you're talking about. So He's saying, be a gentle nudge. Like, help out your brother or sister who maybe isn't feeling that great. And a better diet could help them, the planet and animals, and help them. So go ahead and share that movie. Okay, but sometimes you come up against tough resistance.
Yeah, you will.
And you have been in front of Congress and medical boards. And so what is the best approach when you come across people who've really dug in their heels?
You never know what'll work. A lot of times people just really need education. They need time to process. I'm going to tell you, my toughest patient was my mother.
I had a feeling. It's usually family, closest family.
My mom had a high cholesterol level, and I mean a really high cholesterol level. We were living in Fargo, North Dakota. And, we all just kind of grew up with these foods. Every day it was roast beef, baked potatoes, and corn, except for special occasions when it was roast beef, baked potatoes, and peas. And that's kind of the way it was. So my mother said, I don't know if I want to change my diet, and maybe it's all genetic and whatever. And I realized, probably my mother's problem was, even though her son was a doctor, she knew me as this young toddler. She changed my diapers. You can't take nutritional advice from somebody like that. So one day, I'd been telling my mom all this stuff. I'd given her books. I write books. I'd given her one, and 17,
in fact.
Yeah.
18? Are we on 18? I counted 17.
No, I got a new one I'm going to tell you about in a minute.
Oh, good. Good.
We're actually up to 20. But anyhow,
told you he's on it.
I would give my mom a book. And you know how you can tell when a book hasn't been read? You come home and it's like in the exact same spot. But anyway, what happened was, to make a longer story short, my mother was at the doctor's office. He said, Mrs. Barnard, you've got to start a drug to bring your cholesterol down, because otherwise this is going to kill you. She said, how long do I have to take this drug for? And the doctor said, I don't think you get it.
Forever.
You need to take this medication forever to control your cholesterol. And she said, I don't want to do that. My mom went home. She picked up a book I wrote called Food for Life. And she thought, I'll try it. She didn't tell me. She went vegan. 7 weeks later, she went back to the doctor. The doctor checked her blood. And then later on, called her up and said, Mrs. Barnard, you need to come back. We got to redo all the tests. She said, what's wrong? Well, your cholesterol seems to have dropped 80 points, and we know that's not possible. So there's something wrong with our lab equipment, we think. Would you come back and get tested? And she just laughed. She put the phone down, and her cholesterol really had dropped 80 points in about 7 weeks. She called me back. She called me up, and she said, Neal, why didn't you tell me about this before? I've been telling my mom.
Classic mother.
I've been telling my mom that her cholesterol would drop, for years and years and years, and finally she had to see it for herself. And then, because my father never set foot in the kitchen, she became a kind of
conduit for him.
Yeah, like she was kind of his external conscience. I mean, whatever she made, he would eat, and that just changed their lives. So you never know which seed you plant is going to cause people to change. So we try to be honest and kind, but don't miss an opportunity. I was on a plane not so long ago. There was a guy sitting across from me. We got to talking. What do you do? Da-da-da. We were talking about going vegan. And as a coincidence, later on, I happened to run into his wife later on. She said, you run into my husband on a plane. I said, yeah, that's right. He's vegan now, and we're all going vegan together. So, I mean, you can never tell. This is a true story. You can never tell who you're going to, who is going to listen to you. And another, I think, terrific, equally challenging patient, so to speak, but equally successful, was the American Medical Association. Years ago, they weren't really that savvy with nutrition, but they've been really very good in recent years. They've called for healthier hospital food. They've called for really cleaning up federal guidelines. They've been so good. So never give up. There's a lot of rotten things happening in the world, but there's a lot of good things too. And if we really speak up and we work hard and we strategize a little bit, we really can win.
I want to reiterate that. There are a lot of negative things happening in the world, and maybe more than you can really process, because of course you have children and you're running around and you're busy and we're all doing 7 gazillion jobs and we have our phone. But without being an activist, without uprooting your world, you can make a difference 3 times a day. You change what you eat, you change what you purchase, and you are making a difference. And things can change. Dr. Barnard has shown things really can change.
And no matter where you are, sometimes people will say, well, you can't do this here. A person's not going to go vegan in Texas or in New Jersey or in North Dakota. I say North Dakota because I'm from North Dakota. It's astounding. Wherever you might be, people are changing everywhere. Just recently, I was in Dallas, And this is Texas. This is cattle country. Well, there are now so many vegan restaurants in Dallas now. You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And you know who's really leading this charge, I have to say? Athletes.
Yes, I love it. We've had many of them on this show.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it started with the distance runners like Scott Jurek and Brendan Brazier and Rich Roll. And they discovered their recovery was so much faster on a vegan diet. They were just doing better than the competition. And then it got into tennis with Novak Djokovic, who won Wimbledon this year. Yeah. Then he won the U.S. Open. I mean, he's just crushing the tennis world. And then when Venus Williams, she developed Sjogren's syndrome, which is an autoimmune condition. She thought, I got to eat better. She went vegan, got her game back, and her sister Serena says, you're not going to beat me. I'm going vegan too.
Yes.
And then it was the football after that. It was basketball and football. The Titans in Tennessee, there's 12 or 15 of them gone vegan. And by the way, just this morning, the Grand Prix of Russia was run. This is a Formula One race. And who do you think won it? Lewis Hamilton of England won it. He's going to have his 5th world championship this year, I predict. And he went vegan last year. He says, I've never felt better in my life. And I got to tell you, he leaves meat and dairy in the dust, and he leaves all the other racers in the dust. He's at the front. He gets a checkered flag. So I think that when people see that these athletes are doing it, the old idea was, well, to get muscle, maybe I need to eat muscle. Well, no. I mean, a bull or a cow or a horse or a giraffe, they're not eating muscle. They're building muscle from plants. And human athletes can do that too. And as a doctor, that's what I've been really trying to encourage patients to understand, is that when we eat healthy foods, our bodies will take it from there.
And really, each athlete, just like you, is a role model. When you see these role models, you think, well, I can do this too, because actually, it's a message of joy. When people feel better, it changes their entire life. You all know this because you've gone vegan, hopefully, or you're trying it, or you're doing meatless Mondays, wherever you are in your journey, you see that once you feel better, it's really easy to bring others into the fold, because that's a very compelling message, which is why I have this question. Why isn't there more nutrition education in medical school? Because that just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, and I got to say that's going to be slow to change.
Really?
There really should. Nutrition should be job one in medical school, because
it's preventative medicine.
It's preventive medicine. If a person has diabetes, that's not a metformin deficiency. If they've got high cholesterol, that's not a Lipitor deficiency. They got that from eating cheese and sausage and hamburgers and fried chicken. So nutrition ought to be front and center, and we're pushing on that front. But it's taking time. I got to say, there's a lot of fighting over what goes in the curriculum. However, we're changing things now. At the Physicians Committee, we have something called nutritioncme.org. That's continuing medical education. Nutrition CME. And it's very popular. A lot of doctors are doing it. We have an annual conference. Oh, Elizabeth, it would have done your heart good. We had 1,000 doctors in this room, all either vegan already or really interested in learning about it. This was just in August. And medical students now at the Barnard Medical Center in Washington, D.C. By the way, if any of you are in our neck of the woods, please come by. The Barnard Medical Center is a clinic where we'll give you medication if you need it, but if we can change your diet and that will conquer your diabetes, that's where we're going to go. And it's been just such a model for how to do medicine right, and we've got a whole team that is really so happy to do this kind of work, because they're not a pill factory.
Because ultimately, you don't want to be on pills. Just like his mother, you don't want to be on pills the rest of your life. And if you can get pill-free, it not only feels great, because all the pills have side effects, of course, but it's much better for your wallet.
Yeah.
So think about that. Being sick is very expensive.
Sometimes you may need medication, but let's keep it to a minimum if we can. And let's tackle the food part first. By the way, can I mention?
Please.
I have a new book that's out and another one right on the way. And I just want to mention, I have a new cookbook that is so gorgeous. Drina Burton did all the recipes. It's called Dr. Neal Barnard's Cookbook for Reversing Diabetes. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And I'm releasing the Vegan Starter Kit, the book. It's cheap. It's thin. It's small. But about 25 years ago, the Physicians Committee started the first vegetarian starter kit. This was one of these guides that we would give out for free, and just about every other group has their similar kind of thing. But I realized people need a little bit more information and a few recipes and things. So I talked my publisher into letting me do the cheapest, smallest, thinnest little book called the Vegan Starter Kit. It's coming out December 24th. So pick 20 people you know, and I want you to go on Amazon and send them a copy of the Vegan Starter Kit, which, by the way, you can do. Just put in their address and it'll go straight to them. And the whole idea is January 1st. Mm-hmm. That's just when everyone feels so rotten from all the overindulgence that they had. Gosh. You know what I'm talking about? And they've all got resolve.
Been there, done that.
So let me ask you to share this message with them. Or if you're in a library, check it out at the library. Share this with other folks. I am super, super, super excited about the Vegan Starter Kit because it's you can read it in an hour. And for your meat-eating friends who are saying, where do you get your protein? And, do I need a supplement? All the answers are right there. So I'm very excited about it.
Yes, and often, naturally, people do have questions. And so people sometimes want to change, but aren't really sure of the first step. So I have Dr. Neal Barnard for a very limited amount of time, but I do want to ask you some personal questions so we can get to know a little bit the man behind all the wonderful things that we are hearing today. So some of these questions are super fast, they're one-word answers, and some are a little bit more detailed.
Elizabeth, I'll do my best.
Okay, ready. What are we always going to find in your fridge?
In my fridge, you know what you're going to find? I have to say, this sounds very simple because I'm a North Dakota guy, but I really like beans that go into a bean burrito. So I am a terrible cook. I don't have a personality for it, but I discovered that beans cook themselves. You don't have to supervise them. So I'll soak them overnight, I'll boil them up, then I mash them up, and I put them in a tortilla with just a life-threatening amount of jalapenos and hot sauce. And so you're going to find beans and jalapenos and tortillas in my fridge.
Okay,
Come on over, I'll make you breakfast.
I'm going to add something to that. I know this is going to sound like it wouldn't work, but it does. Consider sweet potato also cooks itself. Put it in the toaster oven, go away, take a shower, forget about it. By the time you come back, oh my gosh, it's ready. Add sweet potatoes to that black bean tortilla.
And
they are good.
They are so fabulously delicious. And even though they're so sweet, they're really gentle on your blood sugar and your digestion and everything. So
and super good
I'm
for
gonna
you.
second that.
Okay, so awesome. We've got beans that you're. Maybe you also answered. He's answering everything ahead of time because he's so smart. I was also going to ask you, what is your go-to meal that you can always make super fast? And I guess it's bean tortillas that you can rely on.
Yes, I love them. But I got to tell you, when I eat out at restaurants, I'm always thinking sort of internationally, and I kind of carry that home too. When I say international. When I was in Fargo, we didn't have an Italian restaurant. We didn't have a Chinese restaurant. We didn't have a Japanese restaurant. But when you think, I'm going to say international, that's where all the vegan choices are everywhere. You go into a Mexican restaurant, of course they got the bean burrito. An Italian restaurant, of course we got the pasta arrabbiata or marinara or whatever it is. Go into a Japanese restaurant, of course we can make you vegan sushi. There's no question about it. So think international, you're going to succeed.
That's awesome. Okay, what are your favorite snacks? Be they junk food or health food or however you do it. What's your favorite snack?
I got to tell you, here's my snack now. I have gotten totally hooked on this. I go to the store and I get something orange, like a papaya or a mango. This is fruit. And I get blueberries.
Yes.
And then I get a banana.
Yes.
And I get a few almonds.
Yes.
And all you do is you open up the mango or the papaya, make a bunch of chunks, pour in the blueberries, slice the banana over the top, and just a few nuts on there. This is a great dessert. It's great anytime you're a little bit hungry and you just feel so energized.
Decadent in a way. I mean, it sounds lovely, like such a beautiful treat for yourself.
It's really, and the colors are so gorgeous. And people look at it, it's like you're a food photographer or something like that. So that's my big thing now.
Awesome. Okay, so you grew up on a cattle ranch, and I'm wondering, do you have any pets now? And if so, do you see them any differently than farm animals?
Well, I got to clarify. My dad was a cattle rancher,
okay.
but he did not, and so was my grandfather and my everybody. My dad really didn't like the cattle business.
Okay.
Unlike his brothers who stuck with it, and my dad left, and he went to medical school, and he came back. And he became the diabetes expert for Fargo, North Dakota, and that's where I grew up. So that was kind of my thing. We had cats growing up. I don't have any animals now because I travel.
Yes.
Well, I travel too much, and it's just not fair. If you're going to have animals, you got to make sure that you are taking good care of them.
Of course.
They're not throwaway items. You got to be there for them, and don't leave your dog or cat just sitting, crossing their legs, waiting for you to come home. So no, I don't have any animals. I'm sorry to say.
Do you see them as any differently than farm animals? Any different than farm animals?
What's happened to me is that, I drove cattle to slaughter when I was a kid. I hunted, and I experimented on animals in college. And I wasn't exactly struck by lightning, but I started to rethink all of this. And I started to remember the animals that I had killed hunting, the animals that my extended family raised. And I started to realize they all suffer. Whether they're popular or fluffy or not, they all suffer. And anything that we can do to stop that suffering is something that we really ought to do. And that was really brought home to me, even with very humble animals like the mice or the rats or the pigeons that end up in the laboratory and are killed. They don't know that they're small and unpopular. They just don't want to hurt. And to me, there's nothing better. Whether you're a doctor or a layperson or a teacher, there's nothing better than demonstrating compassion and bringing it into your life. It's not that hard to do. But to me, that's really the foundation of a civilized society and in the way that we want to treat each other.
And if we want a nonviolent society, and I think we do as we see school shootings rise, et cetera, and violence rise, if we want that, then we need to espouse that in all areas, and that includes animals, absolutely.
Yeah, really no question about it. And for me, it's just been so enriching because if compassion for animals makes you rethink what's on your plate, then I got to tell you, all the side effects are good ones.
Right, and then you have better health. So Thank you for that response. What do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
Oh, my goodness sakes, everything. Well, first of all, in medical school, they don't teach you anything about how to set up an organization. My organization, I gave it the world's most awful name, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. What kind of name is that? We never came up with a better name. But if I could kind of rethink everything, I would have it be a one-syllable name. And whatever, but we've done our best. I've had to say we've had some successes along the way, despite these facts.
Do you have a favorite phrase that you live by? So, for example, one of mine that I always say here is eyes to the sky, nose to the grindstone. So, is there anything that you sort of live by in like the heat of the moment?
Well, all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of fun phrases. Just we launched. This is not what you're asking, but we launched a big campaign in Washington to get Washington off bacon. So our phrase there is bacon. It's like cigarettes for your colon.
I like it.
That's not my guiding phrase for my life. I'll tell you my guiding kind of principle. This comes back after World War I, when the world had been suffering through terrible disasters of wartime. People in Europe were going to set up the League of Nations to try to bring peace into the world. And someone said, "Are you optimistic? I mean, look what we've been through. Are you going to succeed?" And the people organizing this said something that was beautiful. They said, "I'm not an optimist or a pessimist. I'm determined."
Oh.
And to me, you can look at the world that we live in, and you think health is terrible. Politics is insane, more insane than it is. You know what I'm talking about. It's more insane than it has ever been. People kill and eat, in the United States alone, 1 million animals every hour.
Every hour. Process that
1 million
number.
animals every hour. You don't have to necessarily be an optimist, but you shouldn't be a pessimist. What you should be is determined. I'm going to do what I can do today. And it's astounding how it adds up into, over the long run, real success.
And if we don't advocate for ourselves and the world we want to live in, who will? So really, it is up to us, and we can make change. Dr. Barnard has showed us that. So you strike me as a man with a sense of purpose, so I won't ask you if you have a sense of purpose. I think you've just explained it. But I'll ask you, of all the things that you do, what is the one thing that you would like to be known for?
Well, I hope this doesn't mean I'm about to croak.
You are not about to croak, not in my kitchen.
I'm not writing my gravestone yet.
Fair enough.
Because I got a lot of work left to do. But I'll tell you what we do, and I don't care if I'm known for it or not, but these are things we have to do. Number one, we do clinical research studies. So, for example, if I'm going to say that a plant-based diet or a vegan diet will help against diabetes, we do those research studies. So I've got a really good team headed by Dr. Hanna Kaliova, who's an endocrinologist, and a whole research team doing those studies. The second thing is policy. We got to change policies. If there's a meat group in federal guidelines, we got to get rid of it. I'm happy to tell you we did get rid of it, but there's a lot of more work to be done. So research, we have to do policy work. And then the third thing is just changing this culture. So that means bringing in celebrities and videos and ads and billboards and all these things so that people see this message as they're driving down the street, as they're on a bus. And that's why I write books and why I try to be in movies. And And that's why I'm here with you today, is because we're getting the word out.
Because we're getting the word out. I think you'll enjoy this. So my episode that I did just before this was with the Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club.
Oh,
so
wow.
there is a group of men who ride around with Vegan's Choice tattooed on their jeans jackets in the back, and they spread the vegan message everywhere. So it's not a girl thing, it's not a guy thing, it's a thing, period.
Sign me up, I'm ready to ride.
Okay, I love that, ready to ride. Just a couple of quick questions, 2 more. What are your predictions for the future? Now, that could be about health, animals, that could be 10 years from now, that could be tomorrow. Pretty general.
When it comes to animal testing, I think we are going to win in China. I think it's going to take a little bit more arm wrestling. But right now, China, as I mentioned earlier in this show, requires animal testing for cosmetic products. I think we can fight that. I think we can win it. I think we can win it in 5 years.
In 5 years. Okay.
If not sooner. In other words, this is not some 20-year plan. I think we can do it much sooner, maybe shorter than that. Vegan diets are not going to be a fad. They are going to explode. They are here to stay. There are other things like gluten-free that might come or go, but with vegan diets, they are really here to stay. I think what we're going to probably see is more and more restaurants embracing them. And I have a new program that I'm working on now. I'll give you a sneak preview. It's called Universal Meals. And universal meals are if a Hindu doesn't want to eat beef and a Muslim doesn't want to eat pork and somebody who's Orthodox Jewish wouldn't want to have shellfish and pork. Well, what does everybody have in common?
Rice, beans.
What we all have in common is foods made from vegetables and fruits and whole grains and beans. And universal meals should be offered in every restaurant, every airline, because that way you're satisfying everybody. Gone are going to be the days when the airline flight attendants say, if you wanted a vegan meal, you should have called 48 hours in advance.
With a bad
attitude.
When
a restaurant says, I'm sorry, all the soups have dairy in them. Universal meals means you never have to say you're sorry. So stick around. We're going to be launching the universal meals concept pretty soon.
I love that. Okay, so let me go over a couple things before I have a final question at the end. One of the things we talked about here is how important the state of California is, because it's the 5th largest economy in the world. So when California changes its policy, the whole world has to change their policies if they want to sell in the 5th largest economy in the world, which is California. So it matters what we do here, Californians. And so let us know. We've made some great strides. SB 1249, Cruelty-Free Cosmetics Act, that has been passed, but now we have to address the Chinese part of it. So the individuals, like me and you, tell me, what specifically can I do, should I do to help make change?
Okay, you should call, for that in particular, if you want to help us on the animal testing part, do call your representatives in Sacramento and just say, thank you for tackling the cosmetic testing in the United States, but we want you to tackle China. Because right now they're thinking through, well, what should we do next year? Should we bring this forward? Think about that, because an enormous number of animals can be used there. So that's really job one.
Okay, thank you for that. I will add to that, always use your voice. It's never too small. Even if it's just your neighbor that you're saying, oh, here, I made vegan cookies. I thought I'd share some. Whatever it is, you are a role model, whether you see it or not. We're not all Dr. Barnard, but we all do make a difference. Use your voice. Be that role model. Be that tiny, friendly, happy nudge, because ultimately you're bringing a message of joy to people, better health, and a cruelty-free world. That's something we all want. And you may not be in the state of California. We're going to make change here happen. But I'm from Illinois, and I'm always contacting my representatives. So you too can contact your representatives in whatever state you're in. It does make a difference. You do have a voice. Thank you for being here with me.
My pleasure.
I want to ask you one question on the way out.
Okay.
You may not have known this, folks, but he's a musician. He plays guitar, keyboards, and cello. Hope I've got this right. I found it on Wikipedia. You've been in 3 different bands. So as we leave today, if you could tell me, please, what is your favorite song to play?
Oh, well, I'll tell you. You can actually... Thank you for asking that. I was actually a musician before I ever went to medical school, and my band, the current band, is called Carbon Works, as in we are made of carbon and these are our works. And if you look at YouTube and you put in Carbon Works, you will see we have maybe 16 videos, or lots and lots and lots of them. I think they're all good. There are 2 really animal ones. One is called Louder Than Words, and it's a really, I think, pretty song, sung by my friend Martha Roebuck. And it was all about a dog who's you'll see it. And there's another one called Samurai about this little girl who wants to free the animals, and it's a hard driving song, but she's the cutest little animal you can imagine. She's 8 years old and fabulous.
Wonderful.
So anyway, Carbon Works on YouTube. You'll see it.
Okay, so what I'm going to do after this is I will go to YouTube and I will find those videos and I will share them right here on Jane Unchained so that we get another sense for what Dr. Barnard is up to, which is so much. Let me say thank you for being with me, and don't forget to be vegan.